Hey everyone, it's Jackie from Vegan Yak Attack, and I'm back with a brand new recipe and video for you today. I know in my last video that I said I was gonna have another one out with a giveaway in a couple days, but apparently I needed a rest because that cookie video just straight up kicked my ass. It was a ton of work. A lot of delicious work, but still pretty exhausting. Anyways, I do have a giveaway for you today, and it is a very exciting one. Basically, it's to celebrate the year anniversary of plant-based, of my third cookbook, Vegan Yak Attack's Plant-Based Meal Prep. It's been out for about a year now, which is very exciting. But what I also want to do is give away my other two cookbooks. So one lucky winner will get all three of my cookbooks, and at the end of the video, you can find out how to enter to win the three cookbooks. Now, on theme for my cookbook, I've chosen to share a recipe out of here that is the Chipotle Tempeh Kale bowls with quinoa. It doesn't say that in the title, but it is with quinoa. It's in the higher protein chapter in the book, and it makes 4 servings. So, you know, you'll have lunch for a couple days or dinner, whatever. Lots of tempeh, kale, a white bean garlic spread, which is probably like my favorite condiment in the book, maybe aside from the kimchi cheese sauce, which is so good. Being that it's January and all, I wanted to share something a little bit more basic. I'm not a diet channel. This is not a diet book. This is just for helping you out with some easier vegan recipes for weekly meal prep. I am just a huge fan of vegan food, and even more so of vegan food that tastes good. That's kind of like baseline, right? So that's what this book is about, is putting that together, creating a roadmap for you, all of that. It is not a weight loss book, but it is the only book of mine that has nutritional information in it. So I will say, sticks to like pretty standard guidelines in terms of like caloric intake, but that's not really a road I like to go down because I've been that person that's been obsessed with calories and stuff in the past, and it can get really unhealthy really quickly. So this is more just so you know if you're eating enough for you, right? So you have a visual reference. But anyways, I wanted to share this really satiating and nutrient dense, but also really delicious recipe with you today. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make the quinoa. Typically I'd make the bean dip / spread, the white bean and garlic spread first, so that the flavors can meld a little bit. But because of how this video is, I wanna make it the most efficient time-wise. And this is still, the dip will be really good regardless. And instead of cooking the quinoa in a pot, as I do in the recipe in the book, I'll still include instructions for that, of course, in the directions on my site. I'm gonna cook it in the Instant Pot. And the trick to cooking quinoa in the Instant Pot is to just, in this case, high pressure, 3 minutes, but let it natural release for probably like 10 or so minutes. And while it's doing that, I can put the kale on top of it so that it'll steam in it, and we don't really have to steam it separately, dirty another dish or anything like that. So first I'm going to rinse off this quinoa. You definitely want to do that. The flavor usually ends up being better, and it's a little fluffier when you rinse it off. All right, I'm gonna add that to my Instant Pot. And then because we're doing it in the Instant Pot, I don't need as much liquid. So in the recipe, it calls for 2 cups vegetable broth, 1 cup quinoa, and you would simmer that in a pot on the stove. So do that if you're cooking it on the stove. Otherwise, I have just a touch above 1 cup of water that I mixed in enough bouillon for 2 cups. So we still get the same amount of flavor as the 2 cups of vegetable broth, but we're still using enough liquid so that it's correct with the Instant Pot. And like I said, I'm just gonna have that run for 3 minutes at high pressure. Yeah, we're good. And then I'll let it do a natural release for a bit, then add in, while it's still very hot, the kale so that it'll steam and wilt a little bit. Now, we are going to make the white bean garlic spread, and we're gonna need a food processor. So let me clear the counter. Okay, for the white bean garlic spread, I have a cup and a half of white beans. This actually calls for a 15-ounce can, but that's basically what that equates to bean-wise. And you want to reserve a couple tablespoons of the bean liquid from that if you're using canned, or if you cooked it yourself like I did, reserve a couple of tablespoons of that liquid. So we're going to add in our white beans. I mean, pretty much any kind of white bean will do, like cannellini or northern, you know, that kind of thing, or just vague white beans that are smaller will work fine for this. Next, we have some tahini. Then I have said bean juice. Then some nutritional yeast. Nice savory flavor. Some lemon juice for acidity. Garlic, of course. I'm just using raw garlic because it's easy, but if you want to use roasted garlic, that would be incredible in this. So good. Lastly, we have some salt and pepper. Now I also have some water on the side in case we want this to be a like looser / thinner consistency than what it turns out to be. Kind of just depends on the beans and the tahini, a few different, you know, ingredients in this that could affect the end product basically. I think I do want to add maybe like a tablespoon-ish of water. And then run it again. And just to make sure that we get like all of the nutritional yeast and stuff, we're gonna scrape down the sides. You can see this is like kind of like the texture of like hummus, but the ingredients are obviously just slightly different, not quite as herby. That's good. Okay. Now you see kind of what that looks like. And again, texture is like not too thin, not too thick. So it'll still work as like kind of like a sauce in the bowl. Not too much like a paste where it would be like too dry basically. So that's good. We can set that in the refrigerator and then get started on our tempeh now. Okay, now we're going to simmer the tempeh, and if you've ever seen me make a tempeh recipe before or made any of my tempeh recipes, you know that the key to having the best tempeh is to simmer it. Otherwise, you get these kind of bitter notes, a little strange, and I feel like that's why it gets kind of a bad rap, because people just aren't really preparing it correctly. So we're just gonna simmer it in some water for a few minutes, and then we'll season it to get that chipotle flavor and everything. Okay, we're gonna add our tempeh to a pan. And this is 2 8-ounce packages of tempeh. So you're basically eating a half package per serving, which is why this is so satiating. That plus the white bean spread and the quinoa, you know, you get roughly 31 grams of protein per bowl, which is pretty great. Now, we're just gonna add about a 1/4 teaspoon of water. That's pretty close. And you want these kind of like in a single layer, so I'll level this out a little bit more. There we go. And you can add a little salt here if you want. I don't, I just add it, you know, towards the end when I'm adding all the other seasonings. And we can cover that, bring it to a simmer, and cook it for, like I said, probably like 5 to 7 minutes. But you don't want it boiling because it'll break up the tempeh. You just want it at like a low simmer is all. So you see we have a little bit of like a low simmer going here. Cover that back up. And now it's been a few minutes since the quinoa timer has gone off, so I'm going to go ahead and release the pressure on that. As you can see, there wasn't very much. But since, ooh, it is nice and steamy in here, can add in that kale. And I'm just gonna shut the lid, not completely, but enough. Okay, so you see that there's a little bit of a color change. It gets almost like more white once it's steamed, because I'm guessing the liquid that it's absorbed. So we can go ahead and turn this off. And then, like I said, I'm gonna drain the water from it and then transfer the tempeh to the bowl. Okay, now that we've transferred the tempeh back to the bowl, I may have upgraded the bowl size a little bit so that we have some room for tossing this with the spices. Here we have some onion powder, some ground chipotle powder, there's some black pepper, a little garlic powder, and some salt. So I'm actually going to stir this together before I toss it in. Since these are very steamy, and it will stick pretty well. So just sprinkle that over the tempeh. And then gently toss it, because now that it's simmered, it's a little softer. That's okay if it breaks up a little bit, which is really just bound to happen. It is a patty made of soybeans, you know. Okay, so we have that. Can bring our pan back. There we go. Now I have some high heat oil here. This is actually like olive oil that's made for simmering and sauteing. But you know, sunflower oil or canola oil, any high heat oil will work here. And then we'll add in our tempeh. Now because this is simmered and it's pretty wet, probably could have used a bigger pan, but you know, here we are. I'm gonna let it crisp on the side for a couple minutes before I decide to turn it so that it doesn't just start ripping apart and we get some of that nice browning. Ooh, it smells really good though. Yum. And you may want to use a spatula for this. If you have a nonstick pan, this could be a little bit easier than what I'm working with right now. So I'm gonna turn this, oh man. There we go. Well, that's not too bad. Pardon the noises. Oh, we lost one. There's definitely some light browning on the edges. So instead of trying to like get every side of this browned, we're not really gonna do that. That might take, you know, too long. Or I'm just impatient, really, is what it is. And hopefully that benefits you a little bit. There we go. Whoop! Got myself with the chipotle steam there. Okay. And then really just, you know, brown it for a couple more minutes until it has some nice color on some corners and it's not like too soft. And then that'll be done. That'll be it for that. I guess we could check on the kale, see what that looks like inside the quinoa. Ooh. I love steaming the kale this way because you don't really have to worry about overcooking it as long as it's not in there too long, because the heat is already off. It's just the built up steam that's in there. So you get this, hopefully you can see that, this really nice bright green kale instead of the kind of like brown olive green that happens when it gets overcooked. So we can actually set that aside in a bowl if we want to get fancy with the plating. Otherwise, you can just stir it into the quinoa. It's no big deal either way. So now you can really see how nice and green that is. I may be burning this a little bit. That'll be nice for flavor, right? Oh, that's... Excuse me. Okay, here's a nice piece. You get this nice browning on the tempeh. Make sure you do this with your hood running. I don't for sound, but this Chipotle smoke is getting me a little bit. Okay, so this really only needs like, I don't know, another 2 minutes. So you see how quickly this comes together, even with the couple of components that it has. And then when this is almost done, we'll add in the lemon juice to help brighten it up a little bit so it's not too savory. And we can go ahead and fluff this quinoa. See this really nice quinoa. Ooh, very, very good. So we got our quinoa, we got our kale, we have the white beans spread in the fridge. Okay. Yeah, let's add in that lemon. You can also use lime juice if you want. And then you're also going to serve it. Oops. Not the best pan for that. Great. I can turn that off now, and I'll go get a bowl so that we can assemble this. All right, we're ready to set this up. And like I said, this makes 4 servings. I brought 2 bowls because I don't think you need to see me do 4 of this. Oh, I have a splinter or something on my finger. Okay, so in addition to the components that we prepped, I also have some green onions because I love green onions. I think they go really well with the garlic and everything else that's going on here. And like I said, lemon wedges, or you can use lime wedges. Either will be great, honestly. So first, let's put some quinoa in here. And like, presentation doesn't really matter, but I like to put it in little segments because it's a bowl, you know, fancy. Okay, so there we go. We'll put in some of our kale. Yeah, it looks about right. Some of our tempeh. Yummy. Okay. And then some of our white bean garlic spread. And the recipe for this is not going to be used up entirely in these bowls. That would be a lot of spread. It's just like a few tablespoons, really. So there we go. Ooh, yum. I can put that green onion right in the middle. Oh, you know what I should add is that last year in January, so January 2020, I did a pop-up with Veganation here in Las Vegas, and this dish was on the pop-up menu along with a couple others, but people loved it. So, and that's really like the best feeling, honestly, especially because I don't have a restaurant myself. It's nice to reach the masses like that and get like a lot of feedback all at once, or rather in a weekend. So now we have our beautiful bowl. I'm gonna get that lemon seed out of here so I don't eat it. Excuse you. A little squeeze. And then a taste. So I like to kind of like eat half of the bowl by combining it all into the same bite. And then once it gets a little lower in the actual vessel, then I just stir it all together. Just mayhem. Oh, come on, tempeh. Okay, so we got this nice, good bite in here. You're gonna be glad that you have some of that white bean spread left after this recipe, because so good. It's like kind of cheesy because of the nutritional yeast, kind of hummusy, but somewhere in the middle, so it's just really good. And it pairs with that creaminess. Even when the pop-up was going on at Vegination, I actually ate this a couple times because I was like, I love desserts and everything like that, but this is just that meal where you're like, oh, I got everything I need. It's really good, and it comes together really easily. What more can you ask for, honestly? So like I said, this recipe is on page 111. See, look at, that's what they look like, right? We nailed it. 111 in Vegan Yak Attack's Plant-Based Meal Prep. My last book that I did in January 2020 is when it came out. So far, a lot of good reviews on it. If you go on Amazon, definitely recommend this book. And it's still really good for beginners too, I will say that much. So, if you don't have the book, I have the link to the full recipe where it's printable in my description here on YouTube. And I didn't forget about the giveaway. To enter the giveaway, subscribe to my channel and comment under this video of why you would like to win any one of the books, Vegan Bowl Attack, Vegan Yak Attack on the Go, or Plant-Based Meal Prep in the comments. I'd love to see it and read your responses, especially because, like I said, it's January, it's the beginning of the year. So like I said, subscribe to my YouTube channel here, Vegan Yak Attack, and comment below on why you would love to win all 3 copies of my books. And before I go, I want to let you know that not only am I doing this giveaway, which you'll be able to enter for 7 days, I'm also going to be doing a giveaway each week for the rest of January as a kind of informal celebration of Veganuary, and just to celebrate, you know, a lot of people going vegan. So stay tuned for the other cookbook giveaways that I have. They're very exciting. I think y'all will love them. And if you enjoyed this video and you love this recipe, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you next time.